The galaxy had never seen fear like this before. In the farthest star systems, news traveled quickly, faster than light itself. Reports came from one planet to another. Entire cities had been destroyed, fleets had vanished, and the enemy showed no mercy. The invader was called the Jark, a species of ruthless warriors whose only goal was to conquer or annihilate. No negotiation, no diplomacy, no mercy. On the planet Kael'thar, the Council of the Free Worlds gathered in their grand chamber. It was a place built to celebrate unity and wisdom, but today it was filled with tension, worry, and despair. Alien. Leaders of every shape, size, and color crowded the room. Some had wings, some had scales, some had multiple eyes, and others had no eyes at all. But all shared the same expression: fear. Admiral Lorak, a tall figure with metallic gray skin and sharp curved horns, spoke first. His voice carried authority, but it trembled slightly. The Jark fleets have reached the outer rim of our systems. Our scouts report that the planet Nisa fell in less than 3 standard hours. Entire fleets were destroyed without warning. Our borders are collapsing. Soon there will be nothing left to defend. A murmur spread through the council chamber. Many alien leaders looked at each other, wide-eyed and pale. Some covered their faces with their hands. Some whispered prayers to gods that may or may not exist. 3 hours, hissed another council member, a small insect-like alien named Tyrrell. 3 hours and our defenses were crushed. How can any world survive such power? Lorak's eyes glowed faintly. We cannot survive if we fight like this. We need new strategies. We need allies. And we need hope. Hope. The word seemed hollow. The last few weeks had shown that hope alone could not stop the Jark. Their ships moved like storms, striking without warning, striking without mercy. Reports from the front lines were horrifying. Entire populations were gone. Families vanished. Soldiers fell by the thousands. On a screen in the corner of the chamber, a holographic map showed the Jark advance. Red lights moved steadily across the map, like fire spreading through dry wood. Planets that had resisted for decades were now burning. The council members stared at it silently, unable to move or speak. Finally, a voice broke the silence. It was Imara, the leader of the Valethians, a proud and intelligent race with long flowing tentacles and violet eyes. We cannot wait for reinforcements. None will come. The rest of the galaxy watches as we fall. Our allies are too far, too busy, or too afraid. She clenched her fists. If we do not act now, everything we have built will be gone. Lorak nodded grimly. We know. We fight, we survive, or we die trying. But... He paused, looking at the map again. I fear even our best efforts may not be enough. The chamber grew quiet again. Fear was heavy in the air, pressing down on everyone. Outside the chamber, the capital city of Kael'thar shone like a jewel. Its towers were tall and elegant, its streets bustling with life. But in every home, citizens whispered of the Jark's advance. Parents held their children close. Soldiers sharpened their weapons and readied their ships. Everyone knew the war had already reached their doorstep. Meanwhile, on the frontline planet of Virella, the situation was far worse. The planet's defensive fleet had been caught in a surprise attack. Jark warships dropped from hyperspace, without warning firing deadly plasma beams that tore through the alien vessels. Explosions lit the sky. Smoke rose in thick black clouds. Screams filled the air. Commander Jarek, a veteran officer of the Virellan fleet, struggled to maintain order. His ships were outnumbered at least 5 to 1. Every maneuver he made was countered. Every strategy failed. They're coming for the city, shouted a young pilot. The shields won't hold much longer. Jarek gritted his teeth. Hold your positions. Do not break formation. We may be outnumbered, but we are not defeated yet. A sudden explosion rocked the command ship. Alarms blared. Panels sparked. Jarek's heart sank. He knew that in less than an hour, Virella might be lost. He had fought in countless battles, but he had never seen an enemy so relentless, so unfeeling, so unstoppable. Back on Kael'thar, the Council sent urgent messages to neighboring star systems, begging for help. But the galaxy was fragmented. Many leaders ignored the calls, seeing them as hopeless. Some claimed that Kael'thar and Virella were lost causes. Only a few replied with words of encouragement, but none offered forces or fleets. The sense of isolation was overwhelming. The free worlds had always relied on their alliances, their numbers, and their technology. But now, all of that felt useless. The Jark had proven too strong, too fast, and too cruel. In the midst of this despair, a small group of soldiers on the planet Kael'thar prepared for battle. They were the best the Council could muster. Elite warriors trained for decades, armed with weapons that could destroy entire buildings. Yet even they were afraid. Sergeant Lyra, a Valethian with gleaming purple scales, adjusted her armor. Her twin eyes scanned the horizon. "If the Jark arrive here, we may not last more than a few minutes," she whispered. Her comrade, a tall and broad alien named Marn, shook his head. "We can't think like that. We fight because it is all we can do. If we give up before the fight, the galaxy is already lost." Lyra nodded, though her heart pounded. The sky outside was filled with dark clouds, as if the heavens themselves mourned the approaching war. As night fell, the first signs of the Jark appeared. Shadows moved across the moons, shapes that no one had ever seen before. Their ships were jagged, black and massive, like floating mountains of metal. They fired plasma cannons that lit up the night sky with deadly blue light. The defenders fired back, but their efforts seemed futile. Every shot was dodged, absorbed, or destroyed. Explosions rocked the planet. Buildings collapsed. Screams of panic echoed across the streets. In the command center, Admiral Lorak received the latest report. His claws clenched around the console. "Virella has fallen," he said quietly, his voice trembling. "They were wiped out. No survivors." The Jark moved closer every hour. Imara's tentacles twitched in frustration. "We have trained our fleets for generations. We have prepared for this, and still we cannot stop them. What chance do we have now?" Lorak shook his head. "I do not know. But one thing is certain. If we do not find hope, we will be extinguished. All of us. Every world. Every life. Gone." Silence fell over the chamber once again. The weight of despair pressed down on everyone. Outside, the cities of Kael'thar waited, unknowing for the inevitable. Yet, in that darkness, no one noticed a faint signal flickering across the outer rim of the system. It was weak, almost imperceptible, like a whisper in a storm. A call for help, sent long ago but never answered. And in the cold void of space, something moved toward them. Something that no one had ever expected. Somewhere far beyond the front lines, a small group of ships jumped out of hyperspace. Their sleek designs and unusual formations were unlike any fleet the galaxy had seen. They moved with purpose, confidence, and speed. Their presence was sudden, shocking, and entirely human. No one on Kael'thar could know it yet. But the arrival of these humans would change everything. The Council would soon learn that when all hope seems lost, the galaxy's most unpredictable force arrives. And for the first time in countless weeks, fear began to mingle with something else. Anticipation, because the humans did not fight like anyone else. They fought like survival, was the only rule. And in that fight, the free worlds might find a hope they had thought was gone forever. The planet Virella was a world on fire. Its skies were filled with streaks of plasma and smoke from battles raging above its cities. On the surface, soldiers moved frantically, trying to defend what little remained. The Jark had already destroyed the outer colonies. Now they aimed for the capital city, where the planetary command and civilian population tried to survive. Commander Jarek moved through the command center, barking orders to officers who were already exhausted. "Focus fire on the enemy's right wing," he shouted. "Reinforce the shields around the city. We cannot let them break through." Outside the windows, the battle unfolded like a nightmare. Zhark warships moved like living predators, circling the planet and striking with precision. Their weapons were relentless, melting defense platforms and tearing through the city's walls. Smoke and fire rose in enormous columns, and the screams of civilians mixed with the wailing sirens of alarms. Lieutenant Sari, one of Jarek's trusted officers, turned to him with a grim expression. "Commander, our fleet can't hold much longer. We're outnumbered 5-1. The enemy keeps adapting to our attacks." Jarek clenched his fists. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. The Zhark did not just attack, they anticipated. They seemed to know every move before it happened. Every tactic Jarek had prepared was already countered. He felt a pang of hopelessness creeping into his heart. In the capital's underground bunkers, civilians huddled together. Families tried to comfort each other, but fear filled every corner. Children clutched the hands of parents, eyes wide with terror. They had heard stories of the Zhark's brutality, but now they saw it for themselves. Buildings collapsed around them. Fires spread quickly. Nothing felt safe. Above them, soldiers fought with every ounce of strength they had. Sergeant Lyra, the Valethian with purple scales, led a squad of elite troops on the city's surface. They were armed with plasma rifles and energy shields, but even their best weapons seemed weak against the Zhark. "Move forward. Cover that." "Street!" Lyra shouted. Her squad fired at the approaching enemies, hitting some, but more appeared from every direction. They were faster, smarter, and more relentless than anything Lyra had ever faced. One of her squad members, a tall alien named Marn, ducked behind a ruined wall. "They just keep coming," he yelled, reloading his weapon. "How can anyone stop them?" Lyra's eyes narrowed. She knew the situation was desperate, but giving up was not an option. "We fight because if we don't, no one else will. Hold your ground, even if it's the last one you stand on." Explosions shook the city. A nearby building collapsed, sending debris flying. Lyra barely avoided it, pulling Marn to safety. They looked at the advancing Zhark soldiers, tall, black-armored, with glowing red eyes and weapons that burned through anything. Their movement was terrifyingly precise, coordinated and brutal. Meanwhile, in orbit, the remnants of the Virilan fleet tried to counterattack. Ships fired volleys of missiles and energy blasts, but the Zhark's shields absorbed most of the damage. One by one, Virilan ships were ripped apart. Smoke trailed from broken hulls, and debris fell toward the planet like deadly rain. In the command center, Jarek's hands shook as he issued orders. "Form a perimeter. Protect the civilians. We cannot lose the city." But even as he spoke, the situation grew worse. The Zhark dropped massive war pods onto the surface. These pods opened and released hundreds of soldiers, all heavily armed, all moving toward the city's defenses. The alien soldiers tried to hold them off, but the enemy was too strong, too numerous. Jarek's voice was hoarse from shouting. "We fight to the last. Do not let them reach the command center." In one street, Lyra's squad was surrounded. Zhark soldiers moved in from every side. They fired weapons that melted the street beneath them. Lyra shouted, "Fall back! Regroup at the east gate." Marn hesitated. "We can't. We'll be cut down before we reach it." Lyra grabbed his arm. "Do not give up. We survive, or everyone dies. Move." They ran through burning streets, dodging plasma blasts and collapsing buildings. Civilians screamed, running in all directions. The air was thick with smoke and dust, making it hard to see or breathe. At the east gate, other soldiers were trying to hold the line. They were fewer now, exhausted from continuous fighting. Lyra and her squad arrived just in time to reinforce them. Together, they created a wall of energy shields and firepower, slowing the Zhark's advance, but only slightly. From orbit, more Zhark ships arrived, dropping even more troops. It seemed impossible to stop them. Even the strongest energy shields began to falter. In the command center, Jarek stared at the communications screen. Reports came in from every sector. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Soldiers were falling by the hundreds. The planet's defenses were failing. A young communications officer, trembling, whispered, "Commander, we may not hold the city. There's nothing we can do." Jarek's hands clenched the console. "There is always something we can do," he shouted. "We fight. We survive. That is all we can do. Send reinforcements to the east gate. If we hold that position, maybe, just maybe, we can buy time." But even as he spoke, he knew it might not be enough. The Zhark were unstoppable. Their tactics were perfect, their weapons deadly, their morale unbreakable. Every move the Virelans made was met with a stronger, faster counterattack. In the chaos, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the sky. It was distant, almost unnoticeable. A small fleet of ships jumped out of hyperspace. Their designs were strange, unfamiliar, but elegant. Unlike anything the galaxy had seen, no one knew what they were yet. But the Zhark did. Their formation shifted. Their ships hesitated. Something about these newcomers made them pause. Jarek saw it first on his radar. "Commander, what is that?" asked a junior officer, pointing at the screen. Jarek's eyes widened. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not like anything we've ever fought." The new ships moved quickly. They were small, but heavily armed. They dodged the Zhark fire with impossible speed. Then, without warning, they launched a coordinated strike. The Zhark's formation shattered. Missiles and energy blasts tore through the enemy ships. Explosions erupted across space. In the streets, Lyra and her squad looked up, confused. The sky above the city glowed with new light as the distant battles reflected in the smoke. For the first time in hours, hope sparked. Someone had arrived. From orbit, Jarek watched the new fleet strike again. Smaller Zhark ships were destroyed. Larger ones faltered. It was unlike any tactic he had seen. The humans, he realized they must be humans, fought with intelligence, creativity, and speed. They moved as if the impossible were normal. On the surface, Lyra's squad felt the effect too. The Zhark troops hesitated, their attack faltering. Some retreated, confused by the sudden and fierce counterattack. Lyra gritted her teeth. "Whoever they are, they're here to help. Move forward, push the enemy back." Together with the humans' unseen attacks from above, the Virelan soldiers began to regain ground. Slowly, steadily, the tide started to turn, just enough to give the defenders a chance to breathe. Jarek leaned back in his chair, exhausted but amazed. "I've never seen anything like this," he muttered. "Who are they? Where did they come from?" No one had answers yet. But one thing was clear. The humans had changed everything. For the first time in days, the soldiers on Virella felt something they had not felt in a long time. Not fear, not despair. Hope. The first signs of hope were faint, but unmistakable. In the skies above Virella, streaks of energy lit up the dark smoke like fireflies. The small, unfamiliar fleet that had appeared out of nowhere moved with precision and speed no one had ever seen before. The humans, because everyone soon realized they were humans, were not large in number, but every move they made carried deadly efficiency. Commander Jarek watched from the orbital command station, leaning forward over the console. His eyes were wide with disbelief. "They're coordinating with us?" he asked. His officer nodded, equally astonished. The humans were doing more than fighting. They were teaching, guiding, and inspiring the alien forces as they went. Below, on the surface, Sergeant Lyra and her squad noticed the change. The Zhark soldiers hesitated mid-advance, their movements uncertain. Their coordination faltered as small groups were suddenly wiped out by precision strikes from above. Lyra's heart raced. She had fought many battles in her life, but never anything like this. "They're clever," whispered Marn, crouching behind a ruined wall as he fired at the advancing enemy. "They move like they can predict what the Zhark will do next." Lyra nodded. "It's not just cleverness. They fight with confidence, like they know they can't lose. Watch them and you might learn something." And so, the humans fought. Small groups of soldiers landed on the planet in fast, armored dropships. They leaped into battle with weapons that crackled with blue energy, moving through streets, alleys, and rubble with unmatched agility. They didn't wait for orders. They created opportunities, striking where the Jark were weakest. One human soldier, barely taller than a virulent child, darted across a collapsing street. In his hands was a strange weapon that fired bursts of energy capable of piercing the strongest Jark armor. He moved like lightning, dodging attacks, taking cover, then firing again. Every shot found its target. Every move had purpose. A Zark commander shouted in rage, "Destroy them! Kill them all!" But even their orders seemed slow, clumsy, as the humans anticipated every attack. From orbit, the human fleet launched coordinated strikes at the larger Zark ships. Missiles flew in from unexpected angles. Energy beams cut through the enemy formation. Entire enemy ships were disabled in moments, leaving the remaining Jark fleet confused and vulnerable. Jarek rubbed his eyes in disbelief. They're small, but they hit like a hammer," he muttered. "How is this possible?" On the city streets, Lyra's squad fought side by side with the humans who had landed. One human soldier ran past them carrying a strange device. He slammed it against the side of a Zark walker, and it erupted in flames. Lyra stared in awe. They're changing the rules," Marn said quietly. Indeed, they were. The humans did not rely on brute strength alone. They combined strategy, technology, and fearlessness in ways the alien forces had never imagined. Where a Virellan soldier would hesitate, the humans acted immediately. Where an alien ship might retreat to avoid damage, a human ship would dive, straight into danger if it meant striking a critical blow. In one alley, Lyra watched a human soldier throw a small device at a group of Jark soldiers. The device emitted a high-pitched sound that disoriented the enemy. They fell to the ground, clutching their heads, unable to fight. The humans advanced, taking the enemies by surprise. It was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They had fought many wars, had advanced technology, and had trained for decades, but the humans were different. They were unpredictable, fast, and utterly relentless. Even the civilians noticed. From their hiding places, families peered out and saw humans moving through the chaos, saving those trapped under rubble, guiding the injured to safety, and keeping the Zark soldiers at bay. Hope, once dead, sparked again in their hearts. In the command center, Jarek received reports from the front lines. Human squads were moving like shadows, striking, vanishing, and striking again. Entire enemy formations were collapsing under their attacks. The tide of the battle was turning. Imara, who had been watching the situation with wide eyes, leaned toward Lorak. "These humans, they are not like anyone we've fought. They are clever, fearless, and astonishing. They may actually save us." Lorak nodded slowly. "I had heard rumors about humans, that they are strong, adaptable, and impossible to predict. But seeing it is something else entirely. If they can keep this up, maybe we have a chance." Back on the streets, Lyra and her squad had joined forces with a small human team. One of the humans, a tall man with short, brown hair and piercing blue eyes, called out orders in a calm, confident voice. His tone was simple, clear, and direct. "Cover the left flank. Push them back. Stay moving." Lyra noticed that the human soldiers were not afraid. Even when facing overwhelming numbers, they remained calm. They moved with precision, as if they had fought countless battles like this before. And yet, they had an energy, a spark, that inspired everyone around them. One of the human soldiers, a woman with a scar across her cheek, crouched beside Lyra. "Keep your head down and fire where I tell you. Trust me." She smiled briefly, and in that instant Lyra felt a surge of courage. She nodded. "I trust you." Together, the humans and aliens fought side by side. The streets of Virella became a whirlwind of motion, energy blasts, explosions, and the cries of the Jark filled the air. The humans' methods were unlike anything the aliens had trained for, but they adapted quickly, following the humans' lead. In orbit, Jarek watched as the human fleet targeted the Jark's main warship. It was massive, heavily armored, and previously untouchable. But the humans attacked with precision strikes from multiple directions, exploiting weaknesses the Zhark had never expected. "Fire all available missiles. Focus on the gaps," shouted the human captain, and the combined force of human and alien attacks tore the warship apart. Pieces of the massive ship rained down toward the planet below. The Zhark fleet faltered. Their coordination broke down. Some ships retreated, others panicked, and many were destroyed in moments. It was a turning point, a moment that would be remembered in the galaxy forever. On the surface, Lyra saw the effect immediately. The Zhark soldiers began to retreat, confusion and fear in their glowing red eyes. They're running," whispered Marn. Lyra could hardly believe it herself. The humans did not chase recklessly. They maintained formation, striking only when necessary, guiding the aliens in coordinated attacks. It was as if they were teaching the Virilan soldiers to fight in a new way, efficiently, boldly, without fear. Jarek leaned back in his chair, exhausted but filled with awe. "I don't understand it," he said softly. "They're humans, just humans, and yet they are changing the entire battle." Imara, watching the situation unfold, turned to Lorak. "We owe them everything," she said quietly. "They came when no one else would. They fight when we could only run. They are extraordinary." Lorak nodded. "Yes, and they do not seem to fight for power or glory. They fight because they can, and because others cannot. That is human." As the Zhark forces retreated, the humans continued to advance, ensuring that no corner of the city remained under enemy control. They rescued trapped civilians, dismantled enemy equipment, and reinforced the alien soldiers' positions. By nightfall, the streets of Varela were quiet, relatively. Fires still burned, but the enemy was in full retreat. The city was battered, but alive, and the human soldiers stood among the survivors, calm, efficient, and ready for whatever came next. In the command center, Jarek finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. "They've done what we could not," he whispered. "They've turned defeat into victory." On the planet's surface, Lyra looked at the humans around her. "Who are they?" she asked, almost to herself. The human captain, hearing her question, smiled faintly. "We are just humans," he said simply. "We fight. We survive. That's what we do." It was a simple answer, but in that moment it carried more meaning than any alien philosophy, strategy, or weapon. Humans did not need to be the largest, the strongest, or the most advanced. They were enough. And in the chaos of war, that was more than enough. As the night fell over Varela, a new sense of hope spread through the planet. Alien soldiers and civilians alike whispered the same thing. The humans had arrived. And now the war, once thought lost, might have a chance. Somewhere far beyond the battle, other worlds would soon learn the same truth. When humans entered the fight, everything changed, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Zhark retreat was slow and chaotic, but it was a retreat nonetheless. Across Varela's battered cities, alien soldiers and civilians cautiously emerged from hiding, scanning the skies and streets for any sign of the enemy. For days, they had lived in terror, believing their world was lost. Now, with the humans' arrival, fear was giving way to something new: hope. Commander Jarek stood in the orbital command center, his eyes fixed on the display of the battlefield. Reports streamed in from every sector. Human squads were not only repelling the enemy, they were striking at the Zhark with precision that defied logic. Entire enemy divisions that had seemed invincible were collapsing in hours. "They're unstoppable," muttered Lieutenant Sari, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do they do it?" Jarek shook his head. "It's not about weapons or numbers. It's how they fight. They are fearless, creative, and fast, and they inspire everyone around them to fight harder." On the surface, Sergeant Lyra's squad moved cautiously through the rubble of Varela's downtown. Fires still smoldered, and the bodies of Zhark soldiers littered the streets. But Lyra noticed something remarkable. The alien soldiers she had once thought exhausted, demoralized, and defeated were moving with renewed energy. They were fighting alongside the humans, learning from them, adapting their tactics. One of the human soldiers, a tall woman with a scar across her cheek, called out orders. Split into pairs. Clear the left quadrant. Watch each other's backs. Lyra followed the commands, surprised at how simple and clear they were. The humans did not waste time in long strategies or debates. They acted. Every order was immediately understood and executed. In the alleys, the remaining Zhark tried to regroup, but their confidence was gone. They had never faced opponents like these humans. They could not predict them, could not match their speed, and could not withstand their precision. A small group of humans scaled a destroyed building and fired at a Zhark artillery unit, destroying it in seconds. The aliens around them cheered, their morale skyrocketing. "We can do this," one Virellan soldier shouted. Meanwhile, in orbit, the human fleet coordinated attacks across multiple fronts. They struck Zhark reinforcements before they could reach Virella, ambushing enemy convoys and disabling their transport ships. Every move was calculated, efficient, and devastatingly effective. "Commander, the humans are targeting their supply lines," Sari reported. "They're cutting off reinforcements and slowing the retreat. The Zhark won't last long if this continues." Jarek's heart swelled with cautious optimism. "Then we fight with them. We do whatever they do. This is our chance to turn the tide of the war." On Virella, human squads moved through the city like shadows. They cleared enemy strongholds, freed prisoners, and repaired damaged energy shields protecting vital infrastructure. Alien soldiers watched and followed, learning from every move. Sergeant Lyra found herself working closely with one of the human officers. "Why do you fight like this?" she asked during a brief pause in the fighting. The officer looked at her, calm and steady. "Because we never stop. If someone has to, we do it. That's all there is to it. We fight. We survive. And we protect those who cannot protect themselves." Lyra nodded, feeling a fire within her that had long been extinguished. "Then we fight," she said firmly. "We fight with you." In the skies above, the human fleet engaged the remaining Zhark ships in one final battle. Ships darted through enemy fire with impossible speed, striking from angles no one expected. The Zhark flagship, once thought invincible, was surrounded and bombarded from all sides. Explosions tore through its hull, and its crew was forced to abandon ship. The Virellan fleet, now revitalized by the humans' tactics, pressed the attack. Missiles and energy blasts rained down on the enemy, coordinated perfectly with the human strikes. It was a display of teamwork and courage that had never been seen in the galaxy before. On the ground, Lyra and her squad led the charge against the remaining Zhark forces. They advanced confidently, taking back streets, buildings, and strategic positions. Every step forward was guided by the humans' clear, direct commands. Every enemy defeated boosted morale further. The Zhark soldiers realized their defeat was inevitable. Confusion and panic spread through their ranks. Their once organized formations dissolved into chaos. They fled through the streets, desperate, to escape the relentless humans and their alien allies. In the command center, Jarek allowed himself a rare moment of relief. "We've done it," he said softly. "We've actually done it. They're retreating." Imara, watching the events unfold, leaned toward Lorak. "I never believed it possible. The humans, they've changed everything. We may yet survive this war." Lorak nodded slowly. "Not only survive, with them we can win. They fight like nothing else in the galaxy. They adapt, improvise, and never quit. The Zhark will learn to fear humans above all else." As night fell over Virella, the city slowly recovered. Fires still smoldered, but the enemy threat was gone for now. Humans patrolled the streets, ensuring no Zhark forces remained hidden. They helped civilians, repaired critical systems, and prepared for whatever might come next. Sergeant Lyra watched them with admiration. "Who are these humans?" she whispered. One of the humans, overhearing her, smiled faintly. "We're just Humans, he said simply. We fight when it matters. And when the fight is over, we move on. It was a simple answer, yet it carried weight. Humans did not fight for power, for conquest, or for glory. They fought because it was necessary. They fought because they could. And that was enough to inspire the galaxy. As the Jark retreated into the void of space, the alien soldiers and civilians of Varela finally allowed themselves to breathe. For the first time in weeks, the city felt alive. Hope had returned, and, in the darkness above, the human fleet moved silently, ready for the next battle. Because when humans fought, nothing stayed the same. The tide of war had turned. The galaxy would never see the Jark the same way again. Somewhere far beyond Varela, other systems would soon hear of the humans' arrival. And when they did, fear would spread among the enemies of the galaxy. Humans were here. Humans had arrived. And the war, once thought lost, was far from over. The Jark retreat was complete, but the war was not yet over. Varela lay in ruins, its cities scarred by fire and destruction. The alien soldiers who had survived the battle walked among the rubble, exhausted and injured. Civilians emerged, from hiding, their eyes wide with awe as they saw the humans moving through the streets, calm and composed despite the chaos. Commander Jarek stood in the orbital command center, his hands gripping the edge of the console. The display showed the Jark fleet scattered across multiple systems in retreat and disarray. For the first time in weeks, the commander allowed himself to feel something close to relief. "They're gone," he whispered. "The humans, they've done it. They've beaten the Jark back." Lieutenant Sari, standing beside him, nodded. "They didn't just fight, they led. They coordinated with our forces, showed us new ways to fight, and inspired everyone. I've never seen anything like it." Jarek's eyes glimmered with respect. "They're unlike anything in the galaxy, not because of their technology, but because of who they are." On the surface, Sergeant Lyra walked through the city streets alongside a group of human soldiers. The streets were littered with debris, but there was no panic, no despair. Instead, there was cautious celebration. Civilians helped each other, soldiers cleaned their weapons, and humans continued their work, guiding the aliens and ensuring the Jark would not return unnoticed. Lyra looked at one of the humans, the tall woman with the scar across her cheek, who had led them through countless skirmishes. "How can you fight like this?" she asked quietly. "You're fearless, precise, unstoppable. What drives you?" The woman paused, looking around at the recovering city. "We fight because we can, because we don't give up, because if someone has to protect those who cannot protect themselves, we do it. That's all there is to it." Lyra nodded slowly, feeling a fire rekindled within her. "Then we fight," she said. "We fight with you." The humans did not boast. They did not demand recognition. They moved with purpose, focused on the task at hand. And yet, the alien soldiers could not help but be inspired. They had fought countless wars, faced countless enemies, and yet never had they seen such courage, creativity, and determination. In orbit, the human fleet moved silently, scanning for remaining Jark ships. Every vessel operated with efficiency and precision. They struck swiftly at stragglers, dismantled enemy supply lines, and ensured that no hidden forces could regroup. Commander Jarek observed the fleet, amazed at their tactics. "It's not just strength," he said aloud. "It's strategy, adaptability, and courage. They don't fight like anyone else, they fight like humans." Meanwhile, across the planet, human squads continued to coordinate with alien forces. They repaired damaged shields, guided civilians to safety, and cleared the last pockets of Jark resistance. Every move was calculated, every strike precise. Sergeant Lyra led her squad alongside a human team to a key communications tower that had been damaged in the battle. They worked quickly, repairing the equipment so that the city could communicate with the surrounding systems again. The human officer overseeing the operation gave clear, simple instructions, and Lyra realized how effective humans were at leadership. They make complicated tasks simple, she thought, and they make people believe they can do the impossible. As night fell, the humans gathered with the alien leaders in the city's central plaza. Commander Jarek, Imara, and Lorak stood before them, their expressions a mix of awe and gratitude. The humans did not kneel, bow, or demand tribute. They simply stood, calm and confident, as if victory was the natural result of their actions. Imara stepped forward. "You have saved us," she said, her tentacles trembling slightly. "You have saved Virella, and perhaps many other worlds. We cannot thank you enough. You are extraordinary." One of the human captains, the man who had led the fleet, smiled, faintly. "We did what had to be done," he said simply. "We fight, we survive, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is enough." Lorak's eyes glimmered with respect. "Enough?" he repeated. "You have changed the course of the war. You have inspired hope where there was none. You have done more than anyone could have imagined." The human captain shrugged. "We're just humans. We do what humans do." Alien leaders exchanged glances, realizing that these humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. They were not seeking power or conquest. They were not motivated by fear or greed. They fought with courage, determination, and a sense of responsibility that the galaxy had never seen before. Across Virella, civilians emerged from shelters, witnessing the humans moving among the rubble, helping the injured and calming frightened children. Whispers spread through the crowd. "The humans, they saved us." Sergeant Lyra watched as a young alien child approached a human soldier and offered a small flower. The human smiled and accepted it gently, kneeling to meet the child's eyes. In that simple gesture, the people of Virella understood something profound. Humans were not just warriors. They were protectors. The next day, the city began to rebuild. Alien soldiers trained alongside humans, learning their tactics, their strategies, and their courage. Ships were repaired, defenses reinforced, and the survivors of Virella prepared for the next phase of the war, bolstered by the humans' example. Commander Jarek gathered with the human captains aboard the command station. "The Zhark will not stop," he said. "They will come again, but now we know we can face them. Now we know there is a way to fight and win." One human officer nodded. "Then we will fight. Wherever we are needed, we will go. But the rest, that's up to you. You have learned how to fight. You have learned to adapt. And now, you will survive." Jarek smiled, a rare moment of genuine relief crossing his face. "We will remember this. We will honor your deeds. And we will be ready." On Virella, life slowly returned. Children played in the streets, soldiers patrolled with renewed confidence, and the survivors rebuilt homes and infrastructure. The scars of war remained, but so did hope. And the people of Virella knew that their world had been saved not by technology alone, not by numbers alone, but by courage, determination, and the human spirit. As the human fleet prepared to leave, they did not make speeches or demand gratitude. They simply boarded their ships and left, moving silently into the void, ready for the next call for help. Sergeant Lyra watched them depart. "Who are they really?" she whispered to Marn. "They are humans," he said, "and we will never forget them." Commander Jarek, watching from orbit, felt the same. Humans were unpredictable, fearless, and powerful in ways no one could have imagined. They had arrived when all hope was lost, and they had changed everything. In the coming days, word of the humans' arrival spread across the galaxy. Other worlds whispered of their deeds, other fleets wondered at their tactics, and the Zhark themselves would come to fear them. Humans had proven that even in the darkest moments, even when all hope seemed lost, courage, determination, and ingenuity could change the course of events. And for the first time in countless generations, the galaxy realized something it had never understood before. Humans were not just another species. They were a force unlike any other, capable of turning despair into victory, fear into hope, and defeat into triumph. The war was far from over, but with humans in the fight, the galaxy, had a chance. And for those who had witnessed their arrival, one thought echoed in every heart. When humans arrive, everything changes. Because humans never gave up. Humans never surrendered. And humans always fought. And with that, the galaxy began to remember what it had forgotten for so long. That hope, no matter how small, could always be rekindled.